funny, I have a book coming out Tuesday, like Kathy said, it's called Ask Gary Vee. My real goal here is to figure out how to get this room into Q&A as quickly as possible, because I think, the content is stuff that we can find online, is written about every day. It's the context, we're getting deeper into the practicality of the hyperlink. Like, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna talk about the things that so many people in this room already know, which is there was an enormous amount of capital deployed in this sector over the last 6 or 7 years, which created a very false environment where most of the companies were building businesses to raise money for the next round. Everybody wanted to become a unicorn, and 97% of the businesses were completely impractical, and you have a cycle, right? And I think we've started feeling the beginnings of that cycle tightening. On the flip side, it's fun to be here, because I think the other thing that we were educated on over the last 5 years is not every company is invented in Silicon Valley. There's a ton of great companies. You know what's funny about that line? That shit works everywhere but Silicon Valley. But the truth is, look at Silicon Valley, right? Like Facebook was invented in Boston. Like Pinterest was invented in Pennsylvania. Like a lot of these companies aren't invented. Obviously, a lot of talent goes there, and if you want to play with the best tech talent, you can find it there, no question. I think that's why it's played out the way it has. But I think, for me, I've been positioning myself for the last 3 or 4 years in a place where I think I have strength, which is market in the year that you live in, right? My success in my career has been actually marketing with behavior that is relevant of the moment. My backstory, for a lot of you that don't know, is I grew up in my dad's liquor store, and I grew his bricks and mortar one location store in New Jersey from $3 to $65 million business in a 5-year period with no capital, on the back of really open rates on my email newsletter that were at 91.3% because it was 1996 and nobody was doing email marketing. By buying the word wine on Google AdWords the day Google started and owning it for 9.5 months before it was good up. And then ultimately where the transition happened, where some of you started becoming aware of me, I started a YouTube show a couple months after YouTube started called Wine Library TV, and started feeling the effects of non-working media, creative, driving actual business results. As you can imagine, it was a big brain twist for me. It was like not spending any dollars and selling more stuff. It was quite attractive. That led me down into investing in Twitter and being active, and really changed the course of my career. But what's interesting for me right now is the marketplace, what this conference was about. To me, I do a lot of investing. I'm about to close a $100 million fund, and my biggest fear is that, I can't get excited about the things that got me excited 24 or 48 or 72 months ago, because it's just basic supply and demand. It's quite simple. I think we're living through a very awkward time where a lot of non-entrepreneurs are entering the entrepreneurial sphere because it's extremely attractive. And so what I'm seeing quite a bit now is a lot of people that would be unbelievable number 3s and 7s and 14s who would have enormously fruitful careers by going and working at Bain or McKinsey or Goldman Sachs or something else, entering the ecosystem and deciding, because they went to good schools and because they have money in their family ecosystem, that they need to start businesses, which makes sense. Let's think of it from the entrepreneur standpoint, not the investor standpoint. You basically get paid. Actually, let me go this way. I had a really fucking interesting meeting the other day. I'm sitting with an entrepreneur who tells me his company's gonna lose. He can't raise his A. It's over. He's shutting down. Gone. Out of business. He's 26. He's sitting there, and he's telling me the story. It's sad, right? Not a fun conversation. And he looks at me in the middle of the conversation and goes, Gary, but don't worry. Don't worry. I learned a lot. And I said, John, I am worried. You lost $250,000 of my fucking money. And so we're living in this really intriguing place where what he didn't understand is I'm on email with Chris Sacca and Josh Kushner and 3 people from Sand Hill Road, and we're all like, this guy's a fucking loser and we will never back him again. People are not quantifying the reputation of the loss. they're quantifying the financial, but who's scared of financial when you're 20 to 27 and you got paid all along the way and you didn't lose and you can go raise again or get a great job somewhere else? They're not understanding. And by the way, for 80% of them, it's never going to matter because they're never going to go and do it again, right? So look, I think the word of the day and what makes me sad is the businesses. The first 3 investments I made were Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Right? And then I got progressively stupider, as you can imagine. There was nowhere really to go from that. But what was interesting about those investments was I didn't think I was an investor. I just thought I was a human being deploying some of my post-tax money into something that I thought would return more money. As soon as I put on my investor hat, I started doing different things. And it was very interesting what it did to me. And look, I invested in Uber, and I made a lot of money in Buddy Media and Wildfire. My PPM was great. I did great. It's fine. But I changed my behavior. 24 months ago, a little bit ahead of what I think people are starting to sniff out, I started changing back to the word that I think matters the most, which is practicality, right? I've become dramatically practical. I'm far more attracted to businesses that have some sight of profitability within a 12 or 18-month period. I think we're going to go through a very aggressive filtering out over the next 36 to 48 months. I think it's tricky to be in great markets like this. See, what's interesting is, I was thinking a lot about this talk. In New York or LA, even LA, and definitely in SF and other places, it's a different version of talk. So what's intriguing here is A, because of the market, a lot of the businesses, even on the board of 16, are quite practical by comparison to things that I see out there. So that's interesting. 2, there's really good momentum in the micro economic kind of tech ecosystem here, which can cloud what's going on at a macro level, right? To me, I've literally watched the same exact businesses in the last 4 months go from trying to raise a, $4 or $5 million valuation seed as the market was really rewarding any fucking idea, right? And now already I'm looking at deals at 3, 3.5 on that same thing, and I think that's going to trickle down. And I think, so for this room down here, I would say it's going to, I don't know what you're feeling and what you're seeing, and you have really quality judges here, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it too, but from a seed and Series A standpoint, A, and that's a good way to start, A, it looks like Series A's are going to go back to actually being Series A's, because they were truly super seeds. We had companies raising at $10, $15 million valuations with very little traction. They could win just on hyperbole, headlines, and the right investment form. But B, for everybody up there and the teams that are in here, the quicker you can start actually running a business, the better. And I mean that. I think that there's a lot of metrics that you're using every day, whether it's monthly active users or lifetime value or cost of acquisition, just a lot of metrics. And I really implore all of you to take a step back and try to make the metric of, well, if I don't have any more money coming in 12 or 18 months, can this thing survive? And it sounds, for all the old timers in this room, think about how crazy what I just said is. Like, hey, you're running a business. It's a good idea to think about actually making profit, right? It's a crazy conversation. And I would tell you that I eat my own dog food, and let me explain what I mean by that. In 2009, at the height of my Gary Venus, and I'm friends with Zucks and Travis, and everything's going unbelievable for me, and I'm like breaking out, and I'm the 4th most followed person on Twitter, and I'm rolling, right? I'm rolling. My book is 50 weeks in the New York Times, I'm Mr. Social Media, everything's rolling. I decide to take a step back and build a client service-based business. Not technology, not SaaS, a client service-based business. And my brother, who was graduating school at the time, all his homies, because he interned at Dig and Revision 3 and all these places, they all went and became equity owners in things like Path, which I invested in, all these great companies. And South by 2010 and 11, he's meeting up with his 24-year-old homies, and they're all worth $8 million on paper, and he's fucking taking calls from brisk iced tea telling them, your tweet sucks. Literally living very different lives, and he really struggled with those first 24, 30 months of us building Vaynermedia. Meanwhile, here we are in March 2016, VaynerMedia last year did $67 million in revenue, on 15.7% net profit. We're on a $100 million run rate, and AJ made more money on his distributions of last year's revenue than every one of his friends in this inner circle of 7 combined times 5. And so, look, I think we're living through meanwhile, with all this practical and kind of humble and maybe gray and not black and white talk, I do believe that over the next 24 months, the next Uber, the next Amazon, the next Airbnb, the next eBay will form. I do. I think great companies are always being formed, and I do think we're living through the world of where technology is going to eat up all the human inefficiencies. The problem is, we've got to really, as a collective, understand this. For every Uber and for every Airbnb, there are hundreds of thousands of companies that are going to go directly out of business. And so that benefits nobody in this room. Nobody down here and nobody up there. And what's strange is we lived through this. A lot of us down here. We lived through 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. Something funny, I didn't. I was isolated in New Jersey building my e-com business, so I didn't understand, I wasn't educated very well on what happened in Silicon Valley. But when I started sniffing this out 24 months ago, I went backwards. And I realized, oh my God, almost every single person that I work with in corporate America, that's in their 35 to 52-year-old age range, was worth $100 trillion in 1999 in some startup on paper. Like literally, more than half of my most senior clients that now work at companies, and half for the last 10 years, were once worth a fortune on paper in 98, 99, and 2000. And so, for up there, the 16 of you in this room, your game plays out quite simple. As this gets more practical, and not frothy, and not any random idea with 2 youngsters from a decent school gets a $4 million valuation, puts $1 million in the bank. As that starts happening, you have to make your business a real business, or in 24, 36 months, you're going to enter the workforce and be there for 4 to 10 years as the whole cycle reinvents itself. And so, I don't know, that's just what's happening. And you know what's the best part? Anybody over the age of 35 knows I'm 100% right. Anybody under hasn't lived through it. It's not your fault. You don't. I get it. You may intuitively believe, you may think it's right, you may think I'm right, but you haven't. Anybody over 35, 100% knows it's happening. Unless they're a fucking idiot. Right? Anybody under, you just haven't lived through a cycle. I'm so devastated that I was isolated in New Jersey and didn't live through the first one, because I would have known it was coming a little bit earlier. I would have saved myself a little bit of money and time and effort 36 months ago instead of 24 months ago. So, look, with all that, and I don't, by the way, if anybody's tweeting now, like, oh, Gary Vee dropping a gloom talk, I think it's a great talk. I'm being serious. I guess I'm getting excited. I'm getting up. Let me tell you why I think this is a great talk. This is a great talk because this is a talk for meritocracy. This is a talk for real capitalism. This is a talk for caring about the market more than your own self-interest. I would love to go out of business if I deserve it. Anytime for the rest of my life. I'm spending all my time right now, by the way, random side note, just to tell you how deep I am into this. I'm spending basically all my leisure time right now hanging out with my 60 to 90-year-old old white dude friends and poking and making fun of them because all they want to do is support Republican candidates that are going to protect their money, and I tell them that they're now soft and finished and losers and not real capitalists. Because if you're a real capitalist, you don't want to just keep your money, pay off a politician, and chill with your money. You want to keep competing. Nobody's supporting IBM, right? Nobody's supporting the companies. The companies just get put out of business. But the individuals want it that way. And so what got them there, they're completely going the other way, and they think they're capitalists because they're just saying, I'm a Republican, it's capitalism, this and that. They're full of shit. They're old, finished, tired, and should be put out of fucking business. back up to our business, but it's crazy. They go on the defense. I hate defense. I love offense. I love the market that we're all in. There's plenty of people that can win here. You just have to know what game you're playing. Too many people up there, and I was part of this ecosystem. Too much about the next round, about the next round, about the next round. You're not building a business. You're building a financial arbitrage machine that is completely doing one thing. I want you to know that 60% of this audience, which is probably about 30% less than the rest of the marketplace, based on what I audited, 90% of the marketplace is now in the business of doing the following. Get ready for the presentation. Here it comes. Ready? Because right now, if they don't get that check, I mean, the amount of down, just get ready. Remember this talk. The amount of down rounds that you're about to read about this summer, fall, and winter is going to be a constant story. Nobody that's got any kind of smarts is going to deploy anything against any. Do you think that 24 months ago, the disproportionate hottest consumer-facing app, Snapchat, would raise $175 million yesterday at the same price they did a year ago? Are you nuts? And that's the creme. If you don't understand that Snapchat is the creme de la creme product in the marketplace, it is. Now, what's interesting is Facebook once did that because it got a little ahead of itself. But what do you think is going to happen to everybody who's number 2 down? And I can tell you because I'm very close to a lot of these businesses. I look at the numbers of a lot of these businesses. I'm very, very close to this ecosystem. There's like this many that are making money. And you know what else? We're just not paying attention. We're not bubbling up enough that Birchbox lays off this many people. Zenfits lays off this many people. I mean, there's a lot going on. And so I implore everybody to become dramatically more practical, and I think the responsibility of the people on this floor is to start challenging people for actual business models in some sort of time frame that makes some logical sense. Because again, what's happening, like always happens, is we get caught up in 4 companies' trajectory, you know, the most magical of magical things, and we try to deploy that logic against the other 99.9. That's not smart. And that's what's happening. Which is sad, because we're at the maturity of the internet itself at this point. We have consumers at scale. When I started building my wine company, it was 1996. I mean, most of America wasn't on the internet. You know, like, it was just like, definitely not shopping, definitely not for wine. You know, and so now, everybody is just so lucky. Everybody has this. And everybody's in play. And you can build big companies really fast. And it's really cool. The problem is, too many of you aren't actual, purebred, #1 entrepreneurs. And that's just the darn honest truth. The other sad part is, we're not forcing people through a rigor that actually has business logic in it. We're just playing venture capital and startup. We're playing. And so, I don't want to play. And so I'm being much smarter, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, I look back at my winnings and I'm like, you know, I did win on B2B a lot more than I realized, right? Because, you know, those are actual businesses that get contracts, you know? And so, please know that for every one Instagram, there is 2 to 5 to 12 to 18 million Insta shit, right? And so, I'm coming to this talk with pure empathy and gratitude for this space that I love the most. I'm not here to say I'm cool or I'm right. I'm not predicting. By the way, I'm not predicting. I'm talking to you about today. This is not here it comes. I'm talking to you about today, right now, right this second. Right this second, it's a really bad idea to have no concept of how you're going to make money unless you hit unbelievable pay dirt and become the glorious winner of the internet for that year. So, I'm looking for practicality. I don't know what you guys are looking for. I'm also looking for a good running back because I think the Jets are going to cut mine. So that's my spiel. I don't know where the runners are with the mics. Do we have that yet? I'm probably a little ahead of time, but I'd love to, you're up there? Awesome. Anybody have a question up there? Let's start with that.
Yeah. Hey, my name's Matt. I don't need a mic, it's fine.
You need it.
Oh, I need it? Alright, cool. Alright. You guys hear me? Is that better, Gary?
Yeah.
Great. Hey, my name's Matt Sherman. I'm with Schnews. It's a software, and I have a question about kind of the difference between those up here and those down there. So I think a lot of us up here might be students building, developing, bootstrapping, and we hustle our way in here by knowing the right people. And the only difference between us and them is just $299. How do you, like right now, the way the room's set up, we're clearly different. How do we get the respect from people like you, people down there, of what we're building, what we're developing? How do we get acknowledged for what we're building?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is to realize how little to zero that matters, right? So the best thing going for you, like it's insane to me how little respect I have for them versus you, or vice versa. It's just a market. The number one way to have venture capital work for you or connections is to have people come to you, right? Like, and the way you let people come to you is you do what everybody else that's won in this space, really won in this space has done. Build something that consumers give a shit about, have an actual tangible business, and done, right? So like, here's the problem. Too many people now think that the cost of entry to start a business in our space is to get some money. The truth is, you don't need it. It's just true. You could start something that doesn't need money from day one, right? And the other thing is, why, if you know, in my standpoint, if you, let's say you need money, because remember, and a lot of you guys and girls know this, the Web 1.0 people, they needed money. Servers cost money, they needed money. Now it's all cloud, and there's consumer at scale. I'm pissed at all of you. I wish I was 20 during this generation, where it was so fucking easy of scale and cost to start something. That's why so many of you aren't real entrepreneurs, because it's that easy, right? It doesn't cost anything. So what I would say is, first, when I hear that, bro, the first thing I would say to you is like, dude, fuck that. Like who gives a shit? And if you say to me, Gary, you don't get it, I need 25K for whatever reason or this and that, and I see you shaking your head, if you need money, you should never even think about them in your entire life. What are you gonna celebrate when you diluted your own equity in the fucking company you built? Got it? It's fucking backwards. Get it? Like you if you, when I see you say, I say money, and I thought, you know, maybe college loan or single mom, I don't know, I'm trying to present real shit, not I just want money, right? And so when I see you shake and say you don't need money, you should never think about them again. The only two businesses I've ever started, I didn't raise money. Why? I knew I was going to be successful. I got customers to pay my funding. And then I kept going, right? Now that's easy, that's easy because I have a little bit of head start with the liquor business and with the client service business. B2B is a little bit easier to get customers to pay than B2C, doesn't matter. Are you building B2B or B2C?
B2B.
Great, so you should get customers and not worry about them. Period. Dude, there's nothing better than using motivation of not having respect. Do you know that I left the wine business? This is, actually, here we go. Here you go, Arizona. You're getting a scoop. I've never said this publicly. I've alluded to it, but never publicly. I literally left the wine business because I wanted. I wanted to go to Madison Avenue because I knew all those agencies thought that I was a Twitter boy loser. The first article written about VaynerMedia was written by Business Week. It said, Twitter boy enters Madison Avenue. He's in for a rude awakening. And in 48 months, I fucking beat the shit out of everyone. I was a millionaire. I was investor in Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr already. I was winning by all accounts. And that's what they wrote, because they respected their little ethos. And I swear on my 2 children, I was fucking pumped. Like, I live for the 50 people here, or 100, for the 200 people here that don't know who I am, for the 20 of those, or 40 of those that don't like the cursing or the bravado, that hate me, or dislike me, or are put off by me, I live for when they finally figure me out 4, 5, 9, 10 years from now. So I'm telling you, don't worry about this. Go let them come to you. It's called leverage. Got it? Cool.
question, given your investment in Uber.
Okay.
I hope you can answer it, but you know, what do you think of Lyft and Lyft's recent success?
Yep.
Do you think that
I want to answer this. What is Lyft's recent success?
I just mean,
asking.
sorry, I
I'm
just
being
mean,
dead serious about that. I don't know.
I just mean pretty meaningful growth and continuing to win in some of the markets, at least in the U.S.
Okay.
And I guess the more relevant question is,
I'm not joking. Like, I'm literally asking. So you can see what's happening here. I'm a passive investor. Travis is one of my boys, but he's busy as shit. I mean, I talked to him at the Super Bowl because he took a picture with Woody Johnson and said, "I'm buying the Jets, asshole." So, here's my question: is there a major top 25 city in America where Lyft has more revenue than Uber? I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't think so, but it feels like they're growing. So here's the question. Here's the question. Do you believe that in that space there is room for two or more?
Yes.
And there are other little companies getting in. So
I think that the transportation landscape plays out similar to things like browsers and email and e-com. I do think there's room for players. I just think the dominant force gets a whole lot. There'll be a decent-ish kind of thing. I don't know who the number 2 player to eBay is. It's probably Amazon and eBay if you really think about it. But like, I think it's a 1 to 2 player race at the top. I think there'll be some niche services. I could see this is funny. Thank you so much for asking that question. This would be great. I would give you a really interesting answer to this question. I'm really pumped. Thank you. I think somebody here should build the Arizona-only Uber or Lyft, where you just really own your every little nuance. You're from it. Yes, people travel and they'll use it. I get it. But what I love is just owning your real little micro market. Which, I mean, if you won, let's say you're up there or down here, and you created it. Let's say you won, right? Cactus, you won. Sorry, just a cliche jersey thing to say. Right? You won, right? You did it. You probably have a nice, I don't know, you're probably taking home $5, $7, $9 million a year as the founder of that. Like, it could be a nice 100, 200, I don't know how big it is. I really don't have the data, but it's amazing to me that people would rather shoot for this insane moon that has the worst data behind its success rate in the last 100 years, and you're more likely to win a lotto at some level, right? Versus doing something practical over the long haul and make millions of dollars a year. So my answer to your question is, I think Uber or Lyft, whoever wins that game, right? I think the second player can win something. My intuition is in that war, because it's so nasty, like they really know each other and want to get, I think one goes completely out, gets bought out, and goes away, because I think they're overspending against each other. But then I think there's some micro-regional, one-market players. There'll be some versions of it, super premium, where like you're getting a bubble bath while you're getting driven to your place, So, you like that one? So that's my answer to that question. You're welcome. Yep, let's get that young lady right there in the middle. Did you get to her? You didn't want to go for the athletic move and jump over her.
I didn't look down there.
Hello.
Hey Gary.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
Tanya.
Tanya, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My question for you, since you just touched on it right now, is about this. Well, it's two-part. One is your thoughts on hyper-local.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to focus on small. I think small is the new big. And it's just more realistic, and it gives people a better opportunity to be an entrepreneur. So what are your thoughts on hyper-local?
Yeah.
And then I'm really interested in the micro-content market. I know VaynerMedia is as well. What are you thinking 24 months down the line for micro-content?
So for everybody, the micro-content term that I created was the content we were putting on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. I think that's become content now, right? I think people, we have clients paying us $500,000, $600,000 to produce a video that only lives on Facebook. So I'd call that not micro anymore. So I think it's just content. Here's what I think about that. I think this is the television, and I think the television is the radio, and I think it's 1965. And I think Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are ABC, NBC, and CBS. And I think the quicker people around, they'll realize that they shouldn't underestimate social media, because social media is the slang term for the current state of the internet, and 53% of all attention is on social networks on this device, and there's nothing even remotely close second to importance in people's lives to this device. That's what I think about that. As far as micro, I think it goes back to kind of my rant to start this talk, which is, if I looked around this room and said, okay guys, this is data, this is not Gary Vaynerchuk's opinion, you're probably far more likely to build some sort of really nice niche business that you can make $200,000 to $400,000 a year, right? And you can build that, or you're probably gonna crash and burn and work at Accenture, or or United Way, or fucking IBM, Home fucking down, right? So which one do you want over the next 24 months? Everybody's gonna pick number one. Everybody's behavior is around number two. That's the truth. That should not be claps, because that's the truth. Yes. Oh, we're here. Hi. It's a ladies' room, I'm excited. These are just a bunch of fucking dudes. So pumped. I think it's because I'm
All right.
Hey.
Hi. I'm Q the Brand. You've probably seen me around your snaps.
I have.
Great to meet you.
Good to meet
I'm also
you.
hosting your virtual book thing here in
Oh,
Tempe.
you are? Thank you so much.
Absolutely. March 12th, anyone who wants to join, sell some books. So, huge consumer of your brand, and I know that a lot of tech stuff is happening, like you were saying. I would love to know your opinion on reputation and why people should really care. I mean, the more content we put out there, I mean, business owners, people, they're just almost careless because they really want to push content out there. But I'm feeling like a lot of people don't care about the reputation anymore.
Well, I mean, that's a very deep question, right? Because if you look what's going on, who's to judge what's right or wrong about one's reputation, right? So 7 years ago, when I first started public speaking, I would get 50 to 100 emails about my cursing and how it was going to ruin my reputation, right? And then the market went that way, right? Or the way you dress, or so. I think I'd like to understand further where you're going with it, because I think reputation, or my favorite, quality content. This is my favorite email. I get it 50 times a day. Hey Gary, Rick from Milwaukee, go Brewers. I gotta ask you something. I've been putting out quality content for 2 years, and I can't get any traction. Why do all these people like all this crap and not my quality content? What did I call him from Milwaukee? Rick? Dear Rick, it's Gary. Because you think it's good content, but the market thinks you're a doof, right? So I'm a little bit worried that reputation goes down that mark as well. Clearly, if you tweet, I want to kill all women, that's not going to be a good idea. But I don't think that's what you're referring to. You're referring to, it should be
All right. I'm referring to maybe the choice of people that create the content. Like maybe business owners are plucking the next millennial out of the parking lot and saying, this guy should know how to handle my social media.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes with strategy, and I just want to hear it from you. I mean, this is something I preach all the time. Why do more people not put enough emphasis on social, let alone, looking at quality content and the people?
Because almost everybody in this room, and when I say this room, I mean the American business sector, is in the transactional sales business, not in the brand and marketing business. That's right. And so, transactional sales business, you need math, quantifiable evidence in our ecosystem, which is why the Zyngas and Living Socials got vulnerable, because they weren't playing LTV and their unit economics were off, but the math was sound. And then in corporate America world, which I've spent the last 6 years because I wanted to understand what the fuck they were up to, they just have reporting to justify their bullshit, right? So you just have layers of reporting and it's bureaucracy. It's really not, as much as I'm upset about what's going on with us, they're the worst, right? There's no meritocracy, it's all horseshit, it sucks. I would take our floaty, frothy, overvaluated ecosystem of, at least you guys are gonna go out of business. Those fuckers stay around. So think back to your equation, it's up to you to convince people. You can't worry about, this is very similar to Rick in Milwaukee. Stop worrying about, let me give you actually a really good piece of advice because I know where you're going. Don't sell to somebody who's not selling it, right? Do not try to sell to somebody who's not selling it. Got it? Don't get emotional that stands for auto shops here and doesn't want to hire you and hire his niece that's 22. First of all, what's the KPI? Second of all, you're only as good as your last at bat. VaynerMedia's been very good at what it does, but if tomorrow we're not doing as well for our content for J&J and somebody can do it better, then that's the case. What you need to do is you need to find the places where they do value the thought of strategy, but don't get caught up in all these fraud. Strategy can be subjective. Creative is definitely subjective.
So there's no market for something like a developed like Social Lock, basically like LifeLock for social media, and basically cleaning up the messes of those who are careless on social.
There's always businesses to scare people into shit, but I hate that fucking shit. Like I think like Glassdoor and like people that write fake reviews on Yelp. Like there's always money to be made on putting people on the defense. It's just a shit business. It's like politics. That's why it all goes negative. I'm sure there is. I've never spent a day in my life paying attention to that sector because I think it's shit.
Business owners are freaked out about it, no matter what
Because
industry.
they're losers. Because they're losers. If you're stupid enough to care, do you know VaynerMedia's Glassdoor reviews are shit because I tell people when I fire them to leave bad reviews because I don't want anybody to ever come into my business that would take an anonymous review as a proxy to what's actually happening? You gotta level up your thinking. You gotta level up, and it's the point where I started. Do you know why I get to sit up here and why my book will outsell every other social media expert like me combined next Tuesday? Is because I actually built a brand. It wasn't transactional. I wasn't growth hacking you guys. I was building a brand around providing value to people. The guy sitting to the right of you, when he wanted to talk to me for an hour and a half in fucking Pennsylvania, fucking Lehigh Valley, I didn't fucking brush him off and say, fuck you, where's my transaction? I sat and listened and acted like a human, and now he's sitting next to you because of that. That's real fun. That's building a brand. You're welcome. I have another talk. I'm gonna fucking kill those fuckers.
It's Rick from Milwaukee.
What's your name, man?
Brian.
Brian.
From Phoenix.
Phoenix.
So
You're
two
a huge
questions.
Diamondbacks fan.
Two questions, somewhat interrelated.
Okay.
When you first looked at your early social media investments,
Yes.
whether it was Twitter,
Yes.
Facebook, whatever, what you started preaching earlier today was have a business model effectively, know how you're going to make money. So how did you look at those early investments and see that? The related question is, for markets like this that don't have access to capital like the other places, where people have to build a real business in order to raise capital, how do we see our way through this part of the cycle and strengthen our local ecosystem based on the fact that we're building businesses and not just building for the next round?
Two things. Number one, I'll start with the second one because it's more interesting. I'll go fast on the first one. Second one, if that's true, because everybody says it, and a couple people clapped, and yeah, Arizona, fuck everyone. If it's true, because it's not going to be true because you guys said it. It's not going to be true because you're small. It's going to be true if the results happen. So what I would do is, if it's true over the next 24 to 48 months, actually, ironically, I could tie the two answers together. If it's true over the next 24 to 48 months, make sure everybody in America knows that when shit hit the fan here, people were practical and build businesses because this would then become an attractive place, if it's true. It's not going to be true based on the claps and the hyperbole and the we're smaller, we're scrappier, because there's plenty non-practical shit going on in this room. Number two, that was actually how I invested in Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter. When markets are very immature, and I believe that consumers will be there at scale, this is where I'm going to make my most money. I'm going to make a lot of money. I may buy the New York Jets because of virtual reality. Let me explain and tie it back to the first part. I didn't bet on social in Angel. When I bet on Facebook and Twitter, they were already at scale, right? Tumblr was probably the thing I made the best bet on, but that was already at scale at junior high. I was just paying attention. Tumblr's B round was a $14 million valuation. So the market was different. People didn't believe in social media. I did, so I would do that. I will do the same thing with VR 7 years from now. Here's how VR is going to play out. Is anybody recording this? Because I'd like to recall it 15 years for leverage. Okay. Here's how VR is going to play out. Everybody's going to get antsy pants right now and start investing in VR. It's already actually happened last month. And huge valuations. And everybody's chasing the same shit I've been complaining about in this room the whole time. Consumer VR, right? Movies and games, and we're going to never leave our rooms. And here's the craziest part. That is going to happen. I'm telling you right now it is. It's just going to take 20 years. And so VR is where Internet 91 and 92 was. It's super early. So I am learning all the people. I want to meet the Mark Andreessen and the Zucks and the Bezos because I want to be homies with them when I'm 55 and 60. So I'm spending a lot of time in VR. I'm going to put my capital against a lot of B2B stuff that's practical that I know that Google and Apple and Amazon are going to need. And then when shit hits the fan and VR didn't happen and everybody's sad in Sand Hill Road and investment world because they invest in things at $300 trillion valuations, but consumers weren't ready to walk around with fucking headsets, right? And it goes to contact lenses, and it's 98.6% real in your brain, and it becomes real. Because trust me, if I sat here in 1989 and told you about the internet that we live in now, everybody would shake their head no too. 36 months ago, if I said everybody would be dating through their app, people would say no. I remember I went on J-Date, it was taboo. We didn't tell anybody for 2 years, right? So humans change way more than you think. It goes much slower than many of us hope that want to make $1 on it. But that's what's going to happen in VR, and that's what happened with me in social. It was already done. It was over. The market didn't believe. I did. It was a great bet. It felt practical. They didn't have business models yet. But that's the one time I'll walk away from business models. If I think the market is grossly underpricing something because they don't believe in the change in consumer behavior, and I do believe, and I think the company that I'm betting on had undisputably won that shift. Yeah, real business logic. Believe it or not, for all this horseshit and hyperbole, it's quite practical and safe and simple.
Up top.
Hey, how are you?
Great. Thank you for taking my question. My name is Israel.
Israel.
I have a two-part question that I'm hoping is going to help a lot of people that are in my stage.
Well, you're a nice guy.
Thank you. So I put something together called Lucy'sGarage.com, and
One more time, because I couldn't hear.
Lucy'sGarage.com.
Lucy, like from the Peanuts?
Yeah, Lucy.
Okay, Lucy's Garage. Okay.
And so what my company does is we deal with independent and mobile mechanics, and we connect them with people from the community.
Okay.
I have to keep in mind that I was dealing with non-techie people like the mechanics, and then also with people who may be familiar with the phones and all that good stuff. I don't have an app yet, and I did do it for that reason because I wanted to not put that.
So you went mobile web?
Yeah, mobile and then desktop is super active.
I think that's right. You reverse engineered your actual consumer base.
Right, and so a lot of the people, my first question are telling me, you gotta make an app, you gotta make an app to succeed. I don't think my model fits that, but these are...
Israel, these are people that headline read and deploy the same advice on anything without taking context into consideration. It's like all these fucking social media experts that are wannabe me's, they read that I'm hot on Snapchat, and they're telling their clients that have 50 to 70-year-old customers to use Snapchat. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
Israel, we're in a headline, do you know what a headline reading society is? That's what we're in. Do you know why I don't talk about politics? Because I'm not doing the homework. I can read the headlines, I can read my random friends' funny tweets from the debate, but I literally, people come up to me once in a while and they're like, why are you so cocky? I'm like, because I only talk about the 3 fucking things that I know. Business and marketing, wine, and the New York Jets. And so I'm super cocky. I spend my entire life on all of them, right? Like, I understand it. But you want to talk to me about healthcare, or robotics, or 3D printing, or sneakers, or fashion, or music, or art, or architecture, or cutting hair? I got nothing. Nothing but loads of fucking humility. So what you're dealing with is headline reading VCs. Headline reading VCs who are fucking math people, and they just can run a fucking Scantron right? Like, who gives a shit? Or former entrepreneur VCs who make so much money, they really don't actually give a fuck. Like, really. Like, I mean, it's just, what do you think you're dealing with? And then your fucking contemporaries, where 95 of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's why.
Right, and thank you very much. And my second part is, maybe this is where I think people would benefit. I spent a lot of time stopping because I didn't know how to make an app, although I had an idea. What is one to do when you're in that stage and you say, I have a great idea, everything's in line, but I'm not going to do anything because I don't know how to do an app, I'm just going to go to school or work and live a normal life.
One more time?
So what is anyone to do in that stage? Because as I said, I moved forward with what I had.
Are you trying to motivate the crowd?
I'm sorry?
I'm asking what your agenda, what's the loaded aspect of the question so I can understand it?
What can you speak on bootstrapping and making it just taking that step forward?
Israel, I'll be honest with you, that's nice and rah-rah. My bigger problem is 80% of this room should go get a fucking job. Yeah, let me try that. And guys, I'm telling you, that's real as day. And when I say a job, I mean go be the number 5 at another person's startup. Do you know how many people don't have the stomach for this? Do you know that we're not talking about the kids that are committing suicide in our space because we tell them that everybody's going to win and then they don't? Do you know all the depression that is in our ecosystem? Because every headline, we're cheering, raising money constantly. We're cheering, well, in Arizona, we're practical, and everybody claps, and then fucking 90% of the screens like, mine's not that practical. I mean, like, you know, like, what are we going to start talking about real shit? Like, a lot of you should. It sounds like maybe you shouldn't because you were able to block out other people's opinion, stay practical. It sounds like you're willing to bootstrap, which means live on the fucking couch of your sister and eat fucking horseshit food because you're young enough and it won't fuck with you yet. You know what I mean? And so, but, my man, Israel, do you know how many, and I said this on Daily V the other day, I know some of you watch this, and this was a real thing. 1, 2, 3 of my entrepreneurs, when I say mine, they're not mine, but people I invested in, people I gave money to, my money, who this last weekend were skiing. Your business is shit. Let me phrase it. You have no business. You're burning money like a fucking motherfucker. The macroeconomic climate is shit, which is trickling down into people clamping up. And you're in fucking Vermont? Fuck you. Let me tell you how I built my business. From 22 to 30, and a bunch of you do know me in here, and I see the faces, you know, I didn't hook up with chicks. That sucks when you're in your 20s. I didn't go out. I took 0. Let me just give you the number. 0 vacation days for the first 5 years of my business. 0. So, listen, do I have disrespect? Yes, I do. Yes, because I work fucking 15 hours a day, every day, and I didn't take a Saturday off until I was 30 years old. 30. Saturday. Something that most people here always had, because you were 9 to 5 situations. I was in retail, big day Saturday, you know? All of them. So fucking people are like, oh, I'm on this kick lately, as you can tell, so I'm really pushing this because it's important, and so I'm getting some pushback emails. Oh, Gary, you think you're fancy because you did it? I'm like, no, I don't think I'm fancy because I did it. I think I'm fancy because when I looked at your fucking Twitter, you watched the entire season of House of Cards the other day, fuckface. That's why I think I'm fancy. And more importantly, why don't you email me back in 4 years after you actually built a business and then tell me fuck you, not now, because you're about to get fucking screwed. You like that? You like it? Because you know you're old. And you like it because shit's crazy right now. People, and by the way, I don't think you guys are entitled. I don't. I think millennials fucking work just as hard as I hate fucking old talk. Millennials are. You guys work just as hard. Just not all of you. Like this whole notion that entrepreneurs and founders, like all of a sudden out of nowhere, America became one big game of American Idol and everybody wins on business. Like all of a sudden we just decided if you grew up with a computer that you were capable to run a multi-million-dollar business. What the fuck's the matter with us? Here's the best part of my talk right now. I mean everybody in this room, outside about 20 people that are grossly lacking self-awareness, everybody else in this room knows I'm 100,000% right. Questions?
And scene. Okay. Hi, I'm Tishan, obviously. Hi. I'm representing Tech.co.
Great.
And speaking of millennials, we have plenty in here, and assuming they're going to go get a job pretty soon, 80%, then can you share with me how millennials versus maybe some seasoned professionals, or as referred to as old, would go and build their personal brand through a lot of these different mediums, and also refer to since you're
to me, personal brand's a funny word, right? Because first of all, it's looked upon negatively. I took a ton of shit for building my personal brand the last decade. Personal brand is basically oxygen now in our society. What's personal brand? It means it's your reputation. It's who you are. And so if you don't tweet and you don't blog and you don't have a medium and you don't have a, like, if you're not out there putting out content, you don't have one. You don't have a reputation. You want to call it personal brand? Great, right? But to me, everybody now has tools at their disposal where tomorrow, this lovely man right here can run a piece about the thing he knows the best, end up being historically correct, and 18 months from now, when everybody Googles back who was right about that thing, it could change the course of his business. So here's what I would say. Much like my little rant before, take a step back and deploy self-awareness and try to think about what you know best or what you're naturally best at. And make that your life. Because by the way, that is what LeBron James did. By the way, that's what the best scientists in the world did. The only difference of the people that have maximized happiness and success and the ones that haven't is the ones that have punted their weaknesses and quadrupled down on their strengths, and the others didn't. You fell into the story of we need to get better at all these things. The American way, by the way. Billions of dollars made on telling you how to be better at everything. Your looks, your weight, your parenting, all of it. And so the insecure, aka the people that weren't lucky enough to have parents that instilled big time self-esteem into them, they buy. And the secure don't, and they triple down. And so millennials should talk about what they know, because they know a lot of stuff. They know a lot of stuff. The reason millennials are winning in corporate America now is because all the old people think they know more than they actually know. That's the dirty little secret. I have like 500 millennial employees, and we're all homies because I want to be young and like everybody else. And so, they're funny because I tell them, like, they get treated so differently at Vayner because it's crazy, it's just meritocracy or bust. But they know their friends are further. I mean, there isn't a 25-year-old in corporate America that isn't respected more today than the 25-year-old that worked in corporate America 20 years ago. That's just the truth. Now, just because this generation doesn't want pure money the way the last one did, I think it's great if that's what makes them happy. But I also think not all of them are that way. I can sit here right now and roll the decks in my mind. 50 25-year-olds that work for me that would literally rather get $1 more in their pay stub for the year than go on a vacation, than get a $12 fucking juice cleanse, then take one more class of SoulCycle, then Uber around all of town, then take their trip to Coachella. Meanwhile, I literally know kids that work for me who live inside that basketball, own nothing. I know their mommy and daddy isn't supporting them. I know I'm paying them $54,000 a year, and they've been to the Kentucky Derby and Coachella this year. They went to Vermont 4 times, but that's okay because they work somewhere and they're not the number one. They drink $84 coffees because it's the newest thing at Brooklyn, and some dude puts his hair in it and puts it in a blender. And it's like, so I think, the State of the Union is this. Everybody wants to bucket everything into everything. There's only individuals. There's just individuals, and that's how I see things. And I think whether it's a millennial or the old folk, I think you should be talking to the world about the thing you know the best, because I think it's leverage for other opportunities in the future. And I think you should communicate to the world in the way that comes to you best. Some people are great at taking pictures. Some people have the gift of gab. Some can do radio voice. Some can write their asses off. You know, you've got to find your strength in that environment as well. How are you best positioned to communicate to the world? Once you figure it out, go all in. Wrapping up? Can I get one more question? One more question, yeah. Especially the student who's been clapping at all the right shit from the beginning, not even when I turned, even before the momentum of the room went in my direction, you were on my side. I appreciate you, bro.
Hey, I'm Greg, and I remember, Gary, when you had less than 50,000 followers. So, you know, congrats on what you created. It's all created by people who, you know, put it out there to create it. So, can you talk about, from an investor standpoint and from an entrepreneur standpoint, there's two stories here. Where are the exits? So you're an investor, nothing's going IPO, nobody's rolling up M&A companies. Where do you get the payoff as an investor? And how should entrepreneurs think about that? Where are the exits?
That's a great question. And that's what I'm spending a lot of time on. Vaynermedia, one of the reasons I'm building it is I want to build the best marketing machine of all time. And one of the things I want to deploy it against is to create the exit for the things I invest in. And it's quite easy, actually. You know, you've got a product, and you know the natural acquirers, right? They're always the people on Wall Street who need your revenue to fake out Wall Street for 90 days. I mean, their game's sicker, hater, straight up, the worst. But anyway, so I think that I think there's a lot more M&A than people realize. There's a lot more. I think the M's and the A's. I think the guys with the money and the girls with the money, they're just waiting a few more minutes. They can taste the blood in the water. They've got the leverage. You know, Microsoft was close to buying Slack for $8 billion. That's a real M&A transaction. I think what they said is, you know what? We could probably get it for $3 billion. And Slack could be one of the true unicorns because it could disrupt email. That's crazy. I mean, by the way, that has been the best for me because I always talk about put yourself out of business. I have this quote, you know, don't be romantic about how you make your money. I'd rather put myself out of business than have somebody else do it. If you asked me what was one of the most solidified things in the market 24 months ago, email would have been at the tippy top. And now when I see what's going on with Slack, I'm like, huh. You know, so super interesting. Anyway, I think there's going to be a ton of M&A activity, and I think there'll be some good exits. I think that things got overvalued, which is bad for the last people in, but I think there's some good companies, well, it might be bad for the first people in, depending on how the last people got in to eat up all the stock, right? But nonetheless, I think there's a lot of M&A because there's a lot of IBMs and Microsofts and Googles and Apples that actually need a lot of this stuff. I just think they're too smart that they know they're not going to overpay. So what I would tell the entrepreneurs, back to what you asked, which was a good question, which is how do they hack that? There's only one answer, and it fits all situations for entrepreneurs of how to hack that. Go build a good business. You know, like, building a good business is good when it's good. The two big businesses I built during bad times. My library was built during 9/11, where I lost my entire consumer base. Literally, I mean, this is quite sad. This is something, again, I must be getting older, my lips are getting a little looser. You know, this is something I've never said. I lost 23% because of some really unfortunate situations. I lost 23% of my premium revenue on 9/11 from death, not even from people claiming up. So Cantor Fitzgerald was the single biggest client of Vaynermedia. I had all the executives. They all died. So not only did I lose the revenue, I was in the weirdest place in my mind. I was talking to these men every day on the phone. So, you know, I built my first business during that shit show, Tech 1.0, and specifically being in Jersey, we got affected more by 9/11. You know, everybody was just 2 years. And then Vaynermedia was, me and AJ started, the whole world collapsed in 2009, right? And so nobody wanted to buy social media, and they didn't want to buy anything. And I was trying to sell them something they didn't even know. So I'm a wartime general. I built my two businesses during bad times because I built actual businesses. And I'll be honest with you, you may think it's selfish or not nice, but I want shit to hit the fan. Not because it's in my best interest, it's in capitalism's best interest. It's in meritocracy's best interest. It's the American way.
Thank you.